Grab out your beige potato products because we are back with the saltiest show on the GBA, Big Deal or No Big Deal. Before I begin the show, I would like to apologize about there being no video last week. Due to real life stuff, we weren't able to record last week, and for the same reasons, Happiest will be stepping down from the show. For the time being, that means I will be hosting the show on my own. With that out of the way, let's begin. Our first match of the week is the Borussia Donphan versus the Bronx Bearticks. Following Whimsicott coming into battle, Lars sends in his Gengar in order to take the hit to preserve his Tapu Fini. The trouble begins when the incoming Moonblast lowers the special attack on the Gengar. This decreases the amount of damage the Shadow Ball does to Rhydon by 19 HP, which actually turns out to be a minimum roll. Later on in the match, Manectric and said Rhydon face off, with the Manectric falling 23 HP short of taking out the Rhydon, forcing it to eat an Earthquake. The reason I mentioned the minimum roll earlier is because of that on 5 of the rolls, the Shadow Ball would actually be decreased by exactly 23 HP. However, most of these rolls are above the threshold, and as such the difference would actually need to be less. This show doesn't cover damage rolls, but I figured it would be interesting to mention that on many of the rolls, the special attack drop actually would have mattered. However, as we do not discuss the rolls, this is not the case. As such, the special attack drop is no big deal, as even if it did not occur, the Rhydon wouldn't have been able to survive on 4 HP instead of 23. Now, in order to discuss hacks that needs less research than the ones we use in the main segment, I'll be introducing a new section which I will call Dealbreakers. This is just to acknowledge the instances of hacks that don't warrant a whole part, as there's not much number crunching and checking to solve, but they did have a large perceived effect on the game, and we actually have an example from both sides of the coin. The late game Toxic miss in the game between the Montreal Habsols and the Florida Gators gave the Altaria enough time to set up and kill the remainder of the Habsols teams, as the Toxic and Heavy Slam damage would prevent the Altaria from setting up and being able to kill the Mudsdale, making this miss a big deal. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, we have the Draco Meteor miss in the game between the Philadelphia Sizzles and the Milwaukee Beware. The Megachomp's Draco to the Victini would max out at about 87%, assuming a modest nature on the Garchomp and naive on the Victini. And as the Victini didn't actually take any damage for the rest of the match, this miss is no big deal. And for the final section of the show, we have Happiest Player of the Week. Now, the players in this list are not necessarily the luckiest, but they are the players that manage to score the most critical hits, secondary effects, or otherwise hacks against their opponents. Coming in at number 3, we have the Milwaukee Bewares, who managed to score a Flamethrower crit to the Slurpuff from the Garchomp, and 2 Jellicent Curse Bodies against the Nihilego and a Tapu Bulu against the Philadelphia Sizzles. And at number 2, we have the New Orleans Pelipers, with the Piloswine and the Tornadus both managing to score critical hits against the opponent. A critical hit Stone Edge against an Arachnoid, and a critical hit U-turn against a Tyranitar. Now, for honorable mentions, we have the Tampa Bay Luxrays, Borussia Donphan, and the Kansas City Jura Chiefs, all of whom managed to score no hacks in their. Coming in at number 1, we actually have the opponents of the Milwaukee Bewares, the Philadelphia Sizzles, who managed to dodge a Will-O-Wisp from the Jellicent with their Ferrothorn, dodge a Draco with their Victini from the Garchomp, and get a special defense drop with their Uxie on the Florges, as well as getting a Wood Hammer critical hit onto the Garchomp with their Tapu Bulu near the end of the game. So those have been our top Happiest players of the week. And that concludes Big Deal or No Big Deal for week 5 of the GBA. Now, this script that I'm using today is probably a lot less flashy than you are used to, and that's because Happiest was generally the one who wrote in all those extra jokes and just to spice it up. So, apologize for the lack of that, but I do hope that you guys have enjoyed a solo host from me, and I will see you guys next week.